Thank you for joining us.
Namaste.
So, today we're going to focus a bit on the side body again. And yesterday I fell into a stretch that I had totally forgotten about. It's funny how often poses cycle through your practice and then you totally forget about it. And sometimes you get very conditioned to certain poses that you want to just keep doing. And one of the best advice I received from some teacher, and of course, I'm not going to remember who this was, that we always need to include poses we don't like in our practice and poses that we love. With that in mind, I'm going to give you a lot of variation for the first pose, but it's helpful if you have bolster, blankets, or you can use softer blocks. The harder blocks don't work so well in this pose. I think when I used to teach at the gym, we used the softer blocks for this pose, but it's a side lying pose, and we'll practice a couple of different ones, and you in your own practice can experiment with this. The other thing I got to do recently was actually take somebody else's class when I was in Palau, and it was taught at the Dolphin Center where they have rescued some dolphins, some bottlenose dolphins who are just lovely. And we practiced on there was kind of a space where we weren't looking at the dolphins where we practiced, but then it started raining, so we did Shavasana in the little facility that had roofs in it, and then we got to go see the dolphins. So that was very special because there was a like 2-month-old baby. So, and these dolphins get really huge, whereas regularly I see spinner dolphins and they're quite small compared to the bottlenose. So that was very special. So maybe I'm thinking of dolphins as I go into this class today. So whatever you have, I will show you how to do this without having a prop first, and then you can go into using a prop. So let's begin. So the pose is a side lying pose. I'm going to lie on my right side to start with, and I'll just show you on the mat. It is having your legs in a little bit of a V, and then my bottom arm is my right arm, my top arm is my left, and then just holding that wrist. Now that's the basic pose, and you can just do it on your mat. So I'm just going to turn to show you that my feet or my legs are like this, and I'm activating my feet when I do this. Now, with props, you could roll a blanket. I'll show you with my bolster just because it's handy and I brought it out for class. Is that I put the bolster so like my hip bone is still down on the ground, and so it's really my rib cage that comes over this, and then I just support my head in my forearm here and I hold the wrist. Now, if you have found yourself with whatever prop you have or you're on the mat comfortably, you can stay there. I will demonstrate it with a few other props just so you get the idea that, like, I have this cushion and I could just use one cushion. Same thing. Or in this case, because they're kind of, I think I've used them a lot, they're flattened out, I can put them on top of each other and do it that way. Now, these blocks are a little bit hard. If you had the plastic ones, they might be a little softer. And let's see, I'd have to put it somewhere where I feel, oh, that's not too bad. It doesn't really dig into me. So this is a cork block. So you can use a block here. And then, what's the third thing I have? Fourth thing is I've folded up blankets. You can also roll the blankets and hang out here. So those are multiple options for this pose, and you yourself could take time in your own practice and practice this on different levels. You could start lower, like on the mat, then you could add something. Oh. and you could add something to give yourself more height. So now that I've explained the pose, you've probably been here for a while, but you really want to try to press into the feet so the legs are activated, and you really want to straighten the top arm by having the thumb and the first finger around it. Right now I feel in this side of my body, I really feel the stretch in my rib cage. I think on the other side of my body, I'm going to feel it somewhere else. But I really feel it in the rib cage area and probably a little bit in the armpit. But you may feel it differently. Now, you always want to support your head, and if this isn't enough, you could take a cushion and put it on your arm or a blanket and do it this way, because a lot of times we have less mobility in our neck and shoulder areas sometimes, so we really need some softness. And as you know, one of my mottos is, I don't want you to suffer. So do what works for you in this pose. So I've probably held you there for a little while, and we'll shift to the other side. So again, it's the top leg that comes forward, the bottom legs comes back. It's like you're making a little V with the legs, and so you don't want one too far forward and too far back. You kind of want it even enough, because the point of the stretch is through the side body. And I'm just showing you now with my bolster. Actually, I need to scoot it down a little bit. And my head is resting in my arm because it can. If you need that extra support, like a blanket, a pillow, cushion, there to support your head, please do it. I always want you to manage the pose for your body. All of our bodies are different. I can suggest where I feel things in my body, but it doesn't mean that that's what you're going to feel. So you need to trust your own body in all of these poses, finding what works for you. And you might notice as you stay here a while, you might relax more into it, you might feel a bit more length, you might even feel the breath softening, and you might just start to feel a bit of relaxation. Because I flew into Guam early yesterday morning, like 5 a.m. or whatever it was. My body was really out of whack yesterday, so I did a very restorative practice, but I started to remember these poses, so I thought that was fun. And then release that side. And then there's a second pose you can do. And again, if you need to just do it on your mat, just do it on your mat. If you have the elevation, and it can be lower elevation, you can just use the blanket or the cushion. I'm going to show you with my bolster. You're going to put your hips actually on top of the bolster. You're going to extend the legs out. And if you happen to have a wall, you can press the feet into the wall. Now you're trying to be as stacked sideways. So think of yourself as in Tadasana. So you're trying to be as stacked as possible from the feet to the ankles, to the knees, the hips, so that when you come down, and again, it depends on your shoulders, whether you can place the palms on each other and your arms by your ears. You may need to have a little bit more flexion in the elbows, but the other choice is to bring the arms a little forward if that doesn't work. But actually, I think it's better if you can place your head on your arm to try to straighten it. And if it doesn't straighten, please just, flex the elbows a little bit. And then see if you can feel the stretch here. Now for me, it starts to go more into here, into that side hip. And this is also where you can also use a block under your hips, because that's probably going to dig in less. but because I had the bolster out already, I'm going to do it. You also might start feeling some stretching through the shoulders, like I'm feeling it a little bit in my armpits. And in this pose, I can kind of get into that rotation through the shoulders where I open up the space between my shoulder blades. You may not feel that, but you can start, you can do a little bit of rotation with those elbows and press some upper arms and press them into the side of your head. You can have a couple of more breaths here. See if you can really feel the breath moving into that side body. And then slowly release. And again, in your own practice, if you're finding these useful, please continue and give yourself a lot of time. So I'm just switching over to the other side so I can face you. And again, you're trying to be like in a Tadasana here. The bolster is under your hips. I can straighten my arms here. You may not be able to. And I'm opening also, like I said, the space between my shoulder blades because I'm rolling my forearms and really squeezing into my head. So that's just another thing that you do if it works for you. If you don't, just soften the arms a little bit because a lot of people just cannot lift their arms over their head. It's a challenge. So in yoga practice, we are working with whatever range of motion you have. And then hopefully we're helping you increase that range of motion. Or at the very least, maintain your range of motion as best possible way. I feel it slightly different on this side. It's a little bit even in my back hip or side waist a little more here. And then slowly release that side because I have the bolster. If you we're going to do the next pose. I did this one yesterday too because it felt so good. But this works especially well if you've got the rolled blanket or cushion under you. But your feet are kind of in a frog position, so the tops of the feet, they're sort of turned out. And then just put the hands down so you can put the forehead here. And this is going to lift and round that lower back. And again, that creates space in the side body. And of course, this is a pose you can play with the height underneath the front pelvis. Like you can add more height if that feels good. You can put something soft under your forehead if you need that. For me, it's fine to have my hands on top of each other. And then just cycle through a few more breaths here. And then slowly remove the bolster. And then bring the big toes together, knees wide. Walk the hands as far forward as you can. And then just slowly start to bring those sit bones towards the heels. And maybe you feel a little more space in the side body right now. And slowly come up to all fours. So you want to lengthen through the shin bones, through the tops of the feet. And maybe you need to walk the hands a little bit forward of your shoulders. We're going to come into downward dog. So what you can do is you can, lean a little bit forward so you can really press into those hands. Tuck those toes under, and then see if you can really lift the legs and the hips and then press back. And if I was in person, I would take my belts around tops of your thighs to give you that lift so the sit bones really come up. And then we'll go back down, bend the legs, and we'll go back into big toes together. Knees wide. Inhale, coming up. Again, it's nice to kind of rock over those hands to try to really press into those hands. Tuck the toes under, and then start to lift the legs. And as you straighten them, you can really press into the hands, letting the ears be side parallel with your upper arm. Walk the feet and the hands towards each other. And you can just hang here a little bit in the spine before you slowly roll up into standing. And I'm going to stand. We're already starting to run out of time. Anyway, we're going to stand in the middle of the mat. That's good. And really feel the power in the legs. So you want to lift the toes, engage the legs, and then the arms can come here. And again, inhale the arms overhead, feel that length. Now I'm taking my right thumb and first finger. You can do the left side if you'd rather me be your mirror image. And hold that wrist. And again, stretch to the side. But you're still keeping the legs parallel. And activate. And then inhale, coming up. So again, the lower body is very stable so that you can flex the upper part of the body. So again, holding on to that wrist. Inhale, come up, release the arms. And then again, we can do mirror image. So stand on your left foot, bring your right foot up into tree pose. Find your hands into prayer. Again, if you're not so stable, you can stay here with the hands in prayer. If you can bring the arms overhead, you can do that. If your arms are straight, you can bring the hands together to feel that. And then drop same leg, hand in this mudra, so holding the first thumb to the first pointer finger, and then we're doing that C curve. Inhale, slowly come up, bring the arms down, and the foot down. And I suppose in prayer position, you could still do a bit of the C curve if you felt stable enough. So we'll change sides, bringing the foot up. Again, yeah, so it would kind of look like this if you did that with the hands in prayer position. Bring them overhead. You can bring them together with straight arms. You can do that. And then you drop the same hand as leg with the thumb and the first finger. And then the C curve. Not as stable on this side, huh? And inhale, slowly come up. Bring the arms down. And feet in parallel. So that probably brings a bit of heat into the body. And when we think about the side body, one of the big poses is Trikonasana. So again, if you want to jump, you can bring the hands in front of your chest, bending the knees, jumping wide. And then we'll take, I'll be mirror image, take the left foot toe to heel, right foot heel to toe. Now, see if you can find quite a bit of space between the legs. You might need to inch one of the front foot up a little bit more. And then before we come down, see if you can really engage the legs. So lift, really press it into the heels, but lifting the front thighs, lifting the back of the hamstrings into the sit bone. And then really reach, 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 reach. Finding the thigh or the shin. And then the top arm comes up. So you're really engaging the abdominals. Inhale, slowly come up. And have a rest, bringing the arms down. Where you bring parallel feet back into parallel. And of course you can soften the knees to do this as you bring the right foot toe to heel, left foot heel to toe. And then give some space between the feet. And really lift front thighs, lifting the hamstrings into the sit bone. Reach, 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 reach. And down the thigh or the shin, the top arm comes up. Now, just notice your experience in triangle is different today because we've done a little side body opening than it is normally, or does it feel satisfactory, or what? And then inhale, slowly come up, arms out, feet parallel, and you can inch them closer, you can step, or you can jump back into parallel feet into Tadasana. And standing poses wouldn't be complete unless we did Paschimottanasana, which is another incredible side body position. So bring the hands in front of the chest, bending the knees. You can always step if you need to, coming out wide. And then of course you do have to have quite a bit of space between the feet, but not too much. I've seen it sometimes where the feet are too wide because you want to bend here, and this is where you want that perpendicular shin. So as you're here, if you really want the full position, this is what's going to give you the full position. The top arm is an arrow. If that's too hard, you can always just leave it up. Or, I don't know, there's all kinds of possibilities. You can support your head and then get that stretch through the elbow. That's another possibility, because that still activates that stretch. So, and inhale, slowly come up, bring the feet parallel. And on your next breath, you're going to bring that right foot toe to heel, left foot heel to toe. And then as you bend so that this shin is perpendicular. And if you can, you bring the arm up and over. And then the other option is to support the head, but really point that elbow. And I think you'll feel that you're still getting that side body stretch. But but if you can't, if you have shoulder problems or range of motion. And I hadn't even thought of this ever. So you all are getting a little new piece of me today, where I'm finding things that, okay, cool. And then inhale, slowly come up, bring the feet a little closer, and you can step or jump back in to Tadasana. And then this leads us coming down to Zanantasana. We're going to start this pose though like a reclining tree pose. So I'm on my right side, but if you want to do mirror image or laying on the right side, feel free to do the opposite. So this is also where it's useful sometimes to have a wall to press the feet into. Top arm, you can just put the hand down, and then you can, again, support the head. And then we're just going to go into bringing that leg up without any assistance into tree pose. So you'll see that you do have to engage the abdominals here. And the knee is not going to be 180 degrees unless you're one of those really flexible ballet dancers. It's certainly not in my range of motion. Couple of breaths here. Now, if you're feeling you can go to the next stage, just hold that shin. Now you're trying not to roll back. You're trying to stay on top of that bottom hip. Now, if you can hold the big toes, bring the first two fingers and the thumb around it. If not, you can keep supporting. You can support the leg underneath here. And then see if you can slowly stretch that foot up. There's something about relaxation in this pose, but at the same time, it's a balancing. And then slowly bend that leg down. Straighten that leg. Change sides. So I'll be laying down on my left side. Then I bring my hand under my head to support it, and then bring the foot on my thigh for a tree. And again, you can really engage. You want to press the bottom foot so it's like you're standing, and really engage the abdominals here. That's what's going to help support you. So you're connecting deep into your core. Then the next way is to hold the right under the knee on the shin. And again, I can feel myself wanting to roll back. So this is just finding the balance when you change the leg. And then again, you can put the hand under the thigh for the next one, or you can hold the big toe with the first two fingers and the thumb. Of course, this is when ballet dancers can bring that leg all the way to their head, right? Plenty of yogis can do that too. Just not my body. So see if you can find how you need to really engage those abdominals, and maybe bring the leg forward if you're starting to roll back. Sometimes it's staying here for a while to find those micro adjustments. And then slowly bring the leg down. And it's time for Shavasana, either, just pure Shavasana. You can do feet up the wall. You can do feet on the chair, legs on a chair, whatever you need today at this moment. And then slowly let the body settle into this pose, softening the breath. first thing to do is to really check into the side body. Can you feel a softness there, or the breath moving with more ease? Maybe yes, maybe no. But just observe that. And then notice the space between your shoulder blades. Is there a bit of space, a bit of softness? And if you want an image to release the shoulder blade area, you can imagine a sponge in between your shoulder blade and the back body. And you can slowly imagine it filling up with water so the sponge expands. And just notice your collarbone notches, throat. Neck, back of the neck, back of the head. Paying attention to your scalp. Forehead. Your eyeballs. Cheeks, jaw, chin. Slowly reawaken your body, bringing a little movement into your fingers, your toes, your hands, your feet. And slowly roll to your right side, coming up to sitting. Maybe today you can bring in a little bit more freshness and breath. Always remember in your own practice, we've got to do challenging poses that we don't like very much, but also poses that we love. So if we combine those, it'll help us to challenge ourselves to take on poses that feel challenging. Namaste. Thank you for watching and joining us. And namaste.